come across the water to the land of poets and dreamers to explore Castle Leslie, a high Victorian baronial mansion, a real gem among Ireland's great country houses. This must be my lift.
Well, as I said.
My host this weekend is Sir Jack Leslie, the fourth Leslie baronet of Castle Leslie, County Monaghan in Ireland. Lovely view from up here. And I very much admire your hat, Sir Jack. Is that a special Leslie hat?
No, sir, somebody found it on the flea market, yeah. He gave it to me, so I stuck a feather in it.
Excellent. This is Sir Jack's family home, Castle Leslie, and it was Ireland's best-kept secret until Sir Paul McCartney's wedding brought the world's press to the doors of this fairy tale castle. And what's good enough for Sir Paul is good enough for me. This weekend, Sir Jack's going to let me into some of his secrets. I try my hand at a bit of restoration. Send me the bill. Let curiosity get the better of me. No false teeth or spectacles left. And find out what makes this Irish house so unique. You lead the way, yes. Thank you.
There's the handbill.
Tremendous staircase, this, Sir Jack. And so many fascinating-looking paintings as well.
Well, they're by my great-grandfather and Richard Buckner, two artists. They did a tour in Europe in 1848.
Oh, right. Castle Leslie is special, not just because it survived with its original collections, but because the Leslies have held on to it throughout all Ireland's political upheavals.
Okay, thanks.
Ah, look at that. Wonderful to see the lake, isn't it, when you get
Yes, you'll get to view the lake.
It's a fantastic sight, isn't it?
This was always my mother's bedroom. Nothing's been changed since she died.
Right.
Indeed, since the house was built.
Right.
124 years ago, same curtains, everything the same. Even my mother's hairbrushes on the dressing table there. Yes, it works.
You sure it works? Can't believe it.
New plumbing. Hot water.
Excellent.
Well, I'll see you later.
See you later. Thank you very much indeed.
Your lunch.
We'll sort something out, don't worry.
Right.
Yes. Thank you. Fantastic. Oh. God. Well, there is a bed that's had a few generations of one family lying in it. And I think this must have always been one of the major bedrooms, not just because of all the fantastic Italian carved furnishings, but you come into a bedroom and you're imagining people were born in this room already, and you get the feeling of the scenes that this room has seen. The Leslies have been at Castle Leslie for over 300 years. Their estates once totalled 49,000 acres. Today, it is just 1,000. They belong to what was really the former ruling class of Ireland, sometimes known as the Anglo-Irish, who of course were the great country house builders. Many such country houses went into a decline after the founding of the Irish Republic. But some families, like the Leslies, stayed on and are part of Irish life while remaining proud of their Anglo-Irish inheritance. But times have to change, and here at Castle Leslie, while the house is still a cherished family home, it operates also as a country house hotel. Over the centuries, the Leslies remodelled the castle several times before landowner and artist Sir John Leslie completely rebuilt it in the 1870s. Aha! I think this is the dashing artist himself, Sir John Leslie, the first baronet who built Castle Leslie. Yep, and it's signed at the back, John Taylor, London, 1878. So it was made for the year that Castle Leslie was completed, probably to stand here looking proudly down on his achievement. He looks a bit more like a major general than a painter to me. And the centrepiece of his great creation at Castle Leslie is this handsome staircase hall, Jacobean detailing down below, and up above, Georgian, more classical feeling. A wonderful place to hang his paintings. I find this watercolour here particularly interesting because it shows how Sir John Leslie, as a professional artist, looked at things in compositional terms, which I think must have influenced the design of Castle Leslie. And here in the entrance hall, you can just see how well planned the great Victorian country house was, with the interconnection of grand rooms, the staircase through that door, the gallery, the drawing room, the dining room. Despite the demands of running the castle as a country house hotel, these grander rooms still have all the family atmosphere they have had for 100 years. And through this door, we're led straight into the heart of the servants' quarters, 5 stories on the north side of the house. Sir Jack's niece, Sammy Leslie, came home 10 years ago to take over the running of the castle and to develop a strategy to secure the future of the estate.
You're very
I know, it's ages.
That's a tweed.
Thank you. Well, there's some soft wool, I like it. How are you?
Very good, very good. Long time no see.
I know.
Big changes since you were here last.
Yeah, so much has happened.
Oh.
Jack, picked me up in the Musson carriage, which I've never experienced.
Oh, aren't they so sexy, those two? They are just gorgeous. Why don't they make men like that?
Sir Jack's role is now custodian of the family's history and tour guide par excellence.
This is where all the action.
Turning the castle into a country house hotel was Sammy's first priority, and a great success it's been. Now she's embarked on a major restoration project, which includes turning the Victorian kitchens into a cookery school.
All the wonderful old cookers are here, and they're putting a big central island of cookers in the middle so that 12 people can actually cook in here. Right. So we're going to keep the numbers very small so it's very personal. My great-grandmother was American, as was my grandmother, and Granny used to bring all the sort of newfangled things over, and this gas hob was brought over. It's supposed to be one of the first in the country. And of course what Cook did at the end of the evening was she blew the gas out.
Oh, no.
Because you blew everything else out.
Yeah.
And supposedly the butler came down the corridor with his tilly lamp at night to check the kitchen, opened the door and got blown back down the corridor and broke his arm. And all the china and everything in the kitchen got sort of blown to shreds.
Oh, no.
So from then on...
The advantages of modern technology.
Absolutely.
It's all in the operation, isn't it? You won't use the ranges at all, they'll just be kept for historical...
We're going to see how much restoration work can be done on them, Jeremy.
Send me the bill.
And your knob has fallen off.
Yeah, we're going to actually try to see whether we can actually fix it or not.
Right, well,
Yes.
rock solid, isn't it? But it has potential for being a working range. To save further embarrassment, I thought I'd better quit the kitchen before I sent restoration costs through the roof.
What I really want to do is set the place up so that it's structurally safe and sound, that all of the buildings have found their uses, that they're all financially self-sustaining as well, and that it can just move through the next generations.
When it comes to the changing fortunes of the owners of country houses, there's very little that's new, and the Leslie's family motto seems to say it all. In 1665, Bishop John Leslie bought the estate for £2,000. The money was a gift from a grateful King Charles II for Leslie's loyalty against Cromwell.
He was called the fighting bishop.
Oh, yes.
He detested Cromwell.
Yes.
He had 2 pitched battles with Cromwell. Well, when he was age 69, he married Catherine Cunningham, and they had 5 children who were descended to one of them. And he built the old church. You saw it coming down the drive.
Yeah.
The old Castle Leslie.
Yes. One thing's for sure, there's not much about the history of the house that Sir Jack doesn't have a handle on.
Well, this is the drawing room.
Yeah. That's a lovely room, isn't it?
Like that, you like it?
Although the room seems sort of broadly neo-Jacobean, sort of Victorian,
Yes.
you've got a lot of fantastic Italian things I can see already.
Luckily they stuck to a sort of classical style inside.
Just look at this surround by De La Robier, bought by Sir John Leslie for 30 quid in Florence to make a chimney piece for his brand new house, a real statement of his love of high Renaissance art.
You see a picture of the old house there. Built in 1660 by Bishop John Leslie.
But that was the house that they pulled down in 1870s to build this one.
1878. As soon as this house was finished, they flattened it, made the fountain garden.
Right.
It was there where the fountain is.
As with all families, holding on to family treasures keeps alive connections with the past.
The jade bracelet and pearl ring were given to my mother by the Dowager Empress of China. My mother said it was the most extraordinary sight you could possibly imagine. In the imperial palace in Peking, they were ushered into this vast hall by the court eunuchs. All the court eunuchs were dressed in yellow silk flowing gowns. And at the far end, the empress sat on a high throne, and they had to curtsy 3 times. She just stared at them in silence. But then she descended and held each their hands in turn, and the feeling of her hand was most extraordinary. The nails were 2 inches long, and she was perfectly charming to them. But suddenly she turned to her Prime Minister. He was standing beside her there. She said something in Chinese, and he fell flat on the ground.
The upstairs of the house perhaps reflects even more the changes of the last 130 years. Oh yes, it's a very Edwardian room. I can see that immediately. Yeah.
Yes. Lady Randolph Churchill always slept there, Winston Churchill's mother.
Right.
W.B. Yeats, the poet. Sir John and Lady Lavery, the famous painter, and his beautiful American wife. Mick Jagger.
No.
Many others. The Westlife Boys.
Yes, goodness. So it's had royalty and rock stars, poets and revolutionaries. So I think that's rather good, isn't it? And when was Mick Jagger staying here then?
He came twice, once for the girlfriend and once for the boyfriend.
Another business venture is Sammy's Equestrian Centre, born out of her own lifelong passion for horses. When staying at a country house, there's always something on offer that's frankly pretty scary. But hell, you have to go with the flow and try not to make too much of a fool of yourself. And I couldn't really refuse a ride with Sammy. How are you going to chat me up?
Oh, you've never had a leg up?
Yes, I've had a leg up.
I'll give you a leg up. Jeremy, you get on this bit and you face that way.
Yes. Okay.
If you take hold of the reins and bend your leg, keep your knee under your hip, and on the count of 3, 1, 2, 3.
There we go.
There you go.
Thank you very much. The Leslies are one of the few old Irish landowning families who have held on to their land throughout the whole of the 20th century, and managing a 1,000-acre estate still has its challenges.
This wall was built as a famine wall in the 1840s. They were built as relief projects during the famine.
Right.
And our family would have paid everybody, they got a penny a day and the food, and they would have built soup kitchens and food kitchens and cancelled all the estate rents. They actually were one of the few Irish families that really tried to make a difference.
And is it age that's causing this damage and things?
No, at the moment we have a real problem with the wool being stolen. They're coming in at night with a truck, either with a grab on it or a number of people, and they're literally just lifting sections out. And we started marking it with red to see how much was going, and also to try and stop them. It's going to cost us an absolute fortune to put it back.
And it's a curious thing about a wall like this, though, because when you tell me the history about it being built for famine relief, it slightly changes that feeling of, oh, I'm approaching an old Irish country house, there's a big wall all around it, and actually it's not exactly what you think, is it? It's not just to keep people out, it's a whole part of the story of looking after tenantry and things.
It is, but also the joke is that it wasn't built to keep anybody out, it was built to keep us in.
Sammy's father, Desmond, died just 2 years ago. As well as being famous as an avant-garde composer, he had a fascination with all things extraterrestrial. So much so that he created a landing site for aliens.
We sort of reckon they've been coming for centuries. When you look at a lot of ancient history, that there's sort of references, and he'd seen things and written a book with George Adamski called Flying Saucers Have Landed. So he marked an area up on the top of this hill, and it's still actually marked on the title deeds. They had a flying saucer sit-in for 3 or 4 days, and they all sat in circles and waited for the flying saucers to arrive. And all that happened was actually all of the women got pregnant with blonde, blue-eyed children.
Well, it's been quite a day. But this evening I've been invited to Sammy's private quarters in the North Wing to reminisce about some more recent Leslie highlights. And the evening turned on one of TV's favourite moments.
You've met Sir Paul before, haven't you?
Yes, he's been here before.
Yeah.
And he seemed to like the place, and so he chose it to have his celebration. I'm not allowed to, it's all dead secret. It's all dead secret. I'm not allowed to say anything.
Tuesday, though, is the day for the actual wedding.
Next Tuesday. Yes, but it's all secret.
Bravo.
I said, I think it's Tuesday, didn't I?
I should think Paul McCartney thought it was terribly funny.
They thought it was
He thought it
very
was quite
funny.
funny.
Yeah. There was such a buzz around the place, and it was 2 weeks of just fairy tale land. It was incredible. For me, I suppose it was quite a funny time because my marriage had broken up, and it was the highlight of my career and the lowest time ever in my personal life. And to have the two happen at the same time is quite tough because you're so happy and you're so sad at the same time.
With all country house restorations, needs have to be prioritised, and renewal of the long gallery's leaking roof was way overdue. This Italian loggia was added to the house by Sir John Leslie, the first baronet, in a typical gesture of Victorian extravagance. And it also has behind it the long gallery, where he used to come and paint on the walls in the manner of Michelangelo.
There's a copy from the frescoes, I think by the Della Robbia family in Florence.
It was astonishing, but this is all your great-grandfather.
All my great-grandfather.
And he did the whole thing.
The whole thing.
Sir John Leslie travelled widely in Italy and spent 3 years painting these frescoes, all part of his grand design. Sammy is now having the gallery returned to its Victorian splendour, and I was interested to know just how big a task fine art restorer Nat Clements had taken on.
We're going to have to, first of all, dry clean the whole thing, and then we're going to have to wash it down with a very mild sodium trichlorate solution to actually get the to revive some of the colours and lift a lot of the surface dirt. Then we're going to have to rinse the whole thing down to neutralise the cleaning chemicals. Then the fun begins. That's when we have to establish, in fact, what was actually there. So we're going to have to repaint a lot of the areas again. It was painted totally with an artist's view to the whole thing, so it wasn't actually painted with a sort of decorator's view to actually leaving something for posterity, but I would imagine it was a wet weekend and he decided, well, I've got that gallery, I better go and do something with it. It looks rather gloomy.
This is Ireland, we have lots of wet weekends.
Lots of wet weekends. But he saw himself, obviously, as in the grand Italian tradition, didn't he?
Oh, very much so. I think that was his passion. He wouldn't necessarily have been able to paint for exhibition in this manner, but because this was his own home, he was perfectly at ease to crack on and do whatever he felt was to his liking. Being quite a religious man, he established this allegorical theme, which actually works very well.
It's going to be a bit of a job to know how to
We can find
refill them.
pictures of old Renaissance palaces in Italy, we don't copy them. There were so many in Italy, it's full of them. Figures sort of caryatids and
That sort of thing, yes.
you know. That's us as children.
Oh, yeah. Which are you, the one with the gun?
With the gun, age 15, Desmond and Anita.
The story is that as a member of the family dies, their face turns white in the picture. We were terrified of that when we were younger.
The 17th century Anglican bishop, John Leslie, who established the Leslies here, built himself a Protestant church on the estate for worship. But with time, family allegiances have shifted. You never attended services here, even as a child?
Yes, I used to come to the harvest festivals, that sort of thing.
But your father converted to Roman Catholicism.
Yes, when he was at Cambridge.
Did you ever discuss it with him? Do you know why?
No, he'd never talk about it. Very curious. Wouldn't talk about it. Or tell us why or anything.
Yeah. While Sir Jack's father turned away from the Protestant church, it was the place where Mick Jagger was able to find refuge in the swinging 60s.
Well, Mick Jagger was here, and the convent girls were all having a picnic in the park. When they knew it was Mick Jagger, they pursued him, made him write there's his signature in a pencil on their wrists. And he got so tired of it that he went up the tower. They couldn't follow him there.
Why couldn't they follow him up there?
Catholics then wouldn't enter a Protestant church, but I'm not quite sure if that's true. During the war, my mother made a burial plot so we could be buried as Roman Catholics there. You see, we couldn't be buried in the Protestant cemetery.
Why was she building it during the war?
Because she thought one of us might be killed.
Who was the first person actually to be buried here?
My mother built it, and she was the first person to be buried. And there's her tomb. I did all of these, nobody would bother, and then I thought I'd better have my own tombstone, and so I had my own made here.
Ah.
And,
This is your tombstone in waiting?
That's my tombstone in waiting. I'll be buried there. So,
well, not many people get to do that, do they? Why did you do that?
I thought nobody will bother after I died, so I better have it done. Not because it's me, because it's part of the history of the place. So I had it done, Kilkenny limestone.
So you're pleased with it? It's what you want?
Yes, I designed it.
The Leslies are no strangers to eccentricity, and I decided to investigate further. Great 18th century Irish satirist Dean Swift once wrote about Castle Leslie. Castle Leslie has rows of shelves upon which sit books written by the Leslies all about themselves. And I've been going around the house gathering up a few of the Leslie volumes by various different members of the family. Shane Leslie, Anita Leslie, Sir Jack's sister, Desmond Leslie, his brother, Sam his father. This is by Seymour Leslie, and I was reading it last night. He also refers to the amount of books they've written. One could indeed stock a small bookshop with all the books written by my relations. Some have written their reminiscences, actual or woven into fiction, not once but several times. By a tacit agreement, we don't read each other's books.
How you going, guys? It's, what is it, 8:15? There's going to be quite a lot of pressure for you tonight. It's the lull before the storm. That salsify is absolutely gorgeous. Right, well, the best of luck.
Well, by night, Castle Leslie turns into a very busy restaurant. It's just one of the schemes that Sammy has come up with to keep the estate going into the 21st century, and it's pretty hard work. Tonight they're a bit short, so I'm dragged in to help out. And for all my hard work, there's apparently a special reward tonight. The Leslies have a great reputation as party givers and party goers. Indeed, one of their 18th century forebears nearly lost the entire estates through all the parties he gave. Sir Jack Leslie carries on in this great tradition, and tonight wants to show me one of his favourite party places in town. Sir Jack has always had a passion for partying, it seems, especially when he lived in London during the 1930s.
If there was a dance in Belgrave Square, I'd come out about 2 and walk across the park in evening dress, gold watch chain. Never felt there'd be any trouble or anything. There never was. Occasionally I'd hear a funny little voice from the bushes saying, "Hello, ducky." That's about all that happens.
Sir Jack! What an honour. After you. But a drink in the bar was just for starters. Sir Jack couldn't wait to get next door and into the groove. Sir Jack's nightclub is the local mecca for ravers, young and old. Somehow this could only happen in Ireland.
I knew there were discos around, and I said to my family, I must try a disco. I thought they were gloomy places with about 100 people dancing in the dark. You know, I never went near them, but I thought I'd try one. My family said, don't go. They're rough places. You'll be knocked down. You'll come home on a stretcher. They're all drug dealers. Well, I didn't quite believe them. And I never met so many friendly people in my life.
Well, they didn't work. Well, I haven't got the party power of the good Sir Jack, who's going to stay there for about 2 in the morning. I'm off home for a cup of tea in bed. Every country house should have a lake, and Castle Leslie is blessed with 3. Pike fishing is one of the most popular activities that guests come here to enjoy. Uh-oh, this could be the big one.
It's solid. It's weed, I would think. But it looks good.
Weed. It's a fighter, this one.
That's a pity.
There was a fish.
There was a fish.
There was a fish. Well, that was great, and I could have done it all day. But I've got to get back to the house to eavesdrop in on the official house tour that Sir Jack gives at 12:15 sharp.
Our great-grandfather who built this house was an artist. He and Richard Buckner, another artist, did a tour in Europe in 1848. They had no cameras, so they made dozens of watercolour sketches, so we had some of them framed. You'll see here Seville, Cairo, Segovia, Saragossa.
Jack is incredible. He's a real walking encyclopedia.
The pen in the frame there is the pen of Pope Pius IX. He was canonised by the present Pope last year.
Uncle Jack has got the most incredible mind, and you know, somebody said once he's gone it'll be like losing a library. He doesn't really understand the importance of what he holds in his mind.
As a young child, Sir Jack grew up at Castle Leslie with his great-grandmother, Lady Constance, a friend of Dickens, Thackeray and the painter G.F. Watts. So he's a living contact with that deeply cultured high Victorian world that produced this wonderful house.
Well, we're very forward to well about it. It's the piano, not me.
Well, the bags are packed, but the weekend's not quite at an end. I'm told there's a bit of an Irish get-together before I go, although I've been asked not to sing for some reason. Good luck to you all. Good luck.
Cheers.
Jack. And Sir Jack. Good health all. Bless you.
Come and see us again.
Definitely will.
Travel safely.
Bye-bye for now.
Bye.